Okay, welcome to you all once again to the lecture 7 under module 1. This is a concluding topic. Before going to this, let us just recap. We have seen about our outlier detection in the last class and how to treat those outliers and also standardization of the data. Now let us proceed with the next topic of how to categorize the data to reduce the number of values under a particular parameter. No other problems, right? All of you are able to hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now this categorization is also called as coarse classification, classing, grouping, and binning. Okay. Now this categorization technique is mainly used to reduce the number of categories and obtain a more robust model. Say if you have large number of categories of the data, then you can make ranges of the data, create ranges for the data or intervals for the data, so that you can reduce the number of those categories. Now this is useful with both categorical as well as continuous variables. You all know what is a categorical variable, right? In the last lectures, we have seen types of data items. Under that topic, we have also seen categorical and continuous variables. Categorical variables are like having classes, different categories. Say fraudulent transaction or a genuine transaction, or defaulter or a good payer of the loan, or male or a female. These are all categories. Whereas continuous variables, you have float values like weight of a person, you have 20.5 kgs, 32.6 kgs. These are called as continuous variables. Now this categorization can be used with both categorical and continuous variables. We'll see with respect to categorical variables first. Now when you take a data set of customers, historical data of customers who have taken the loan and their outcome as whether they are defaulters of the loan or good payers of the loan. In that data set, let us assume we have a parameter called purpose of the loan. Under this purpose of the loan, we may have various values like the purpose of the loan taken is to buy a car, or it is to buy a laptop, or to it is a housing loan or education loan, like this, right? Now when we are taking this categorical variable and use it to fit it to a regression model expects all the parameters to be as numerical values. In that case, we need to change all these values under the purpose of a loan into numerical values. In that case, we can take purpose of the loan for car. The loan purpose, the purpose of taking the loan is to buy a car. In that case, most of the people who hasn't taken loan to buy a car, their values will be 0. And for the person who has taken the loan to buy a car, that data point value will be 1 under this particular attribute. That is purpose of taking the loan to buy a car. Again, you take purpose of the loan to for pursuing higher education. In this case, we take one data point, he took it for some other purpose. Another data point, he took the loan for education purpose, then it will be 1, then it will be 0 and 1, like this. In this case, if you take the values under purpose of the loan as some 50 values, you have to create total 49 dummy variables under which each of those respective values for that data point will be treated as 1. Rest all will be 0. Now, what is the disadvantage of creating these many number of dummy values is you will have to the regression model has to estimate each and every variable value for all these 49 points. That will be a very humongous task. That is why when we are taking dummy variables for a categorical variable, we have to just convert them into different categories or classes. Categorize them such that if you take the loan as education loan, then all the education purpose will be covered under that. And again, if you take the loan as personal loan, buying a car, building a house, or buying laptop, all these will be covered under personal loan, or buying a vehicle, all this can be covered under personal loan. Means in this case, we are reducing the 49 dummy variables into two different categories. One is the personal loan and one is the educational loan. That is how we perform categorization in order to reduce the number of values under a particular parameter. Again, if we take the next example, in case of continuous variables, let us see this graph where the age is plotted under on x-axis and risk of defaulting a loan is plotted on y-axis. In this case, smaller is the age, then higher is the risk of defaulting a loan, whereas after some years, when he joins a job or in the initial days, he may be a good payer of the loan. Again, when he starts family and the responsibilities increase, the risk of defaulting the loan increases, and after that he becomes stabilized in his life, and so the risk of defaulting slowly reduces, right? This is how continuous variable, this is how we can interpret this particular graph. What do you observe here is there is a non-monotonous relationship. You didn't have any straight line like this. The relationship between age and risk is not a straight line here. It is a curved line, or a say having different curves on the line. This is not monotonous. So the relation between age and risk here is non-monotonous. In this case, if we use robust modeling techniques like neural networks and support vector machines, then it will be easy to model this non-monotonous relationship between these two parameters. But if we take regression models, because of its high interpretability, because of its user-friendly interpretability, if we take regression models, in such cases, this non-monotonous relationship can't be modeled. Why? Because regression lines normally will be as a straight line. They just fit the model as they fit the parameters as a straight line. In that case, this non-monotonicity can be modeled properly. So when we use this categorization, it will help us to model this non-linear effect into linear models like regression. Variables can be categorized into ranges and thus capture non-monotonicity in case of this regression. That is why we are resorting to this categorization technique. Now, what are the methods of categorization? Consider an example here. Consider income values of customers as 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, 2,000, 1,800, and 1,400. Now, how we can categorize them? What are the methods of categorization? We have two methods of categorization: equal interval binning and equal frequency binning. Now, what does this equal interval binning indicate? Here we create two bins with same range. The range is from 1,000 to 1,500 and 1,500 to 2,000. Means all the values lying between 1,000 and 1,500 will be put under this range, and all the values of income lying between 1,500 and 2,000 will be put under this range, right? This is called as equal interval binning because we are providing the interval for it, the minimum value and the maximum value between which the income has to lie. The next type of categorization is by using equal frequency binning. In this equal frequency binning, rather than taking the intervals, here we have taken the number of observations. Means the first bin contains total 3 observations and the second bin contains 3 observations. We have created 2 buckets here. One bin contains 3 of the observation and the other bin contains 3 of the observations according to their numeric value, right? This is called as equal frequency binning. These are all basic methods which do not take target variable into consideration. Means they do not take whether he is a churn customer or not, or whether he will be a defaulter or not. That target variable is not taken into consideration. So we have to use some in-depth techniques like chi-squared analysis. This chi-squared analysis is a more sophisticated way to do this coarse classification. Now consider this following example for classifying a residential status variable. Here we have data about good customers and bad customers and various parameters like owner of a house, whether he is staying in rented unfurnished house, whether he is staying in a rented furnished house, or whether he is staying with parents, means he is staying for free, and others, any other category we have taken here, and no answer if there is no reply from the customer. If there is no data available, then those data points can be counted as no answered, not answered data points. Okay, now these are too many parameters here, right? Owner, rent unfurnished, rent furnished, with parents, others, lots of parameter categories are there. We can't model all these categories in a regression model. That is why we need to reduce them into simpler categories. We have two options here. We have considered first option as owners, renters, and others. Means owners, we take this particular value, this value, and renters we have taken these two values, and others we have taken these two values. Now what is the second option to categorize? We have taken owner, again this value, this parameter. With parents we have taken this parameter, and others we have taken this one, and this one together. Okay, that is another form of categorization. Now let us see which categorization will help us to better classify the outcome variable, better predict the outcome variable, so that we can follow that categorization during building the analytical model. Okay, now we can investigate which one of the above categorizations is better by using chi-squared analysis. Let us use this chi-squared analysis technique in order to find out whether this option of categorization of the parameters is useful for us, or beneficial for useful in better prediction, or this categorization is useful in better prediction of the outcome variable. Now for that we are using this chi-square analysis. Now we need to compare the empirically observed frequencies with the independence frequencies. Consider in the first table, observe carefully. In this first table we have empirical frequencies, and in the second table we have independence frequencies. Now let me explain you how we have calculated this independence frequencies from the empirical frequencies. Empirical frequencies are nothing but the observed values. What values we have tabulated based on the historical data available about the customers, that is your empirical frequencies data. In that we have 6,300 owners, 2,490 renters, and 1,210 other people. Total there are 10,000 data points, among which 9,000 are good payers and 1,000 are defaulters of the loan. Okay, now how do we calculate this independence frequencies? Observe this, what we have done. We are trying to calculate the number of good owners given that the odds are the same as in the old population. Now let us take this 6,300, the total number of owners out of the total number of data points, 6,300 divided by 10,000 into how many good payers you have, means how many good owners you are trying to find out. Now that is nothing but 9,000 divided by the total number of data points into the total number of data points. This formula will give you the independence frequency for good owners. Now this we have placed it in our table as good owners, right? Now this total owners will not change. That is why we have taken here 6,300. And the independence frequency we have calculated it as 5,670. Now 6,300 minus 5,670 will give you this bad owners. Okay, in the same way you can calculate for renters also. Now in this renters we can take 2,490 divided by the total number of data points 10,000 into the good payers, means good renters in this case, that is 9,000 divided by 10,000 into 10,000. That will give you this value, that is 2,241. So among this total points as renters, 2490, you have independence frequency calculated as 2241. Now 2490 minus 2241 will give you 249. In the same way you calculate others also. How do you calculate this? You take this others category 1210 divided by the total number of data points 10,000 into the total number of other payers, that is the total number of good payers, that is 9,000 divided by 10,000, the total number of data points into 10,000. That will give you this value, the independence frequency 1089. Now from this total value 1210, if you subtract this 1089, you will get this bad other data points which are bad payers. Okay, this is how you create the independence frequencies. Now how to perform this chi-squared analysis? The difference between this point and this point whole square divided by the total, I'll show you the formula here. 6,000 minus 5,670 whole square divided by the independence frequency. The deviation between the empirical observation and the independence frequency whole square divided by the independence frequency. In the same way we have taken again for 300 minus 630 whole square divided by 630, 540 minus 249 whole square divided by 249, 1950 minus 2241 whole square divided by 2241. In the same way you calculate for all the points till here. Difference of this whole square divided by this, difference of this whole square divided by this, difference of this whole square divided by this, difference of this whole square divided by 249. Okay, once you observe through the slides, you will understand better after the class. Just go through how chi-square is calculated. The deviation between the empirical observations and the frequency, independence frequencies whole square divided by the independence frequency added through all the observations, you will get the chi-square value as 583. This is for your option 1 categorization. That is for this one, owner, renters and others. Now we have also calculated for option 2 the chi-square value, and that is observed as 662. Now which is the greater value? In the option 2 we got the higher chi-square value, right? So the more the numbers in both tables differ, means the higher is the difference, the lesser is the independence, indicating better dependence and a better classification. Means if you have a higher chi-square value, this indicates that there is higher dependence between the categorized variables. Means we are trying to perform better classification. So because the option 2 will give, the option 2 here is giving us the higher chi-square value, it is that the categories that we decided in option 2 is giving us a better classification compared to option 1. That is why we select option 2 for our categorization. That is nothing but we are considering now the classes as owner class with parents class and others class compared to this classification. So we selected this classification for our categorization. Any doubts? Okay, let us go to now let us just see what we have discussed. Based on the above chi-squared values, option 2 is the better categorization, showing higher dependence. Now many analytics software tools have inbuilt facilities to do this categorization using chi-squared analysis. So if you select one suitable software tool, it will perform for you this chi-squared analysis, and it will decide on the categories of the parameters when you have large number of parameters. Now, another approach also we have for performing this categorization, that is called as pivot tables. Before going to this, let me show you in the previous table how this column is calculated. This column here is called as, this row is called as good bad odds. Good bad odds is nothing but the ratio between good owners and the bad owners here, and the ratio between rent unfurnished and good customers who are staying in a rented unfurnished house to the ratio of bad customers who are staying in rented unfurnished house. 6,000 is to 300, the ratio is 20 is to 1. 1,600 is to 400, the ratio is 4 is to 1. That is how all these ratios are calculated. Now that is how we are calculating the odds in the next case also. That is why I have gone back to explain you that. Now let us take this example of pivot tables for categorization. Consider an example given like this. We have a data set like this having customer IDs and the age of the customers and the purpose for which the loan has been taken and the outcome variable here, whether he is a good customer or a bad customer, right? Now all these parameters will be using in our model in order to predict whether a customer will be a good customer or a bad customer. In this case, how categorization can be done? By creating a pivot table for course classifying the purpose variable. Here we have the purpose variable. In this case, based on this purpose variable, we are course classifying the we are creating a pivot table for course classifying the purpose variable. Now how we have done this? Let us assume that we have some 1 lakh data points. In that case, customers having car, among them, how many of them are good customers? 1,000. And how many of them are defaulters? 500. And what is the odds? Odds is nothing but the ratio between good customers and bad customers. In this case, it is 1,000 is to 500. So we got it as 2 is to 1. So we can directly write it as 2. In this case, 2,000 is to 100. Odds has been calculated as 2,000 is to 100. That is 20 is to 1. That is nothing but 20. And in this travel case, customers who travel more, who has been good payers and bad payers, for that the odds has been calculated as 15. You understood this, right? This is 3,000 is to 200. That will give you 15 is to 1. That is nothing but 15. You can write it as 15 by omitting 1 in the ratio. And 100 is to 80. You get the odds value as 1.25. And those who are having a own house, you get the odds as 6.25 by taking the ratio 5,000 is to 800, right? Now we can categorize the values based on similar odds. In this case, how do you perform categorization? How you can take some parameters into similar classes. Now see this, the car parameter and the study parameter, you're having almost similar odds. In this case, category 1 can be created as category 1 can be created as car and study together. And category 2, you're having house here. This is not near to any other odd. So we can take it as a separate category, house. Again, in this case, cash and travel are having near values, 20 and 15. So we can take this category 3 as cash and travel. Means out of these many categories under purpose of a loan, we have created 3 categories by taking feasible ranges which are having similar type of odds. That is how we create pivot tables which help us to perform better categorization of the data. Right? This is how we complete this chapter. So in this chapter, we have seen basic nomenclature, analytics process model, which is very important topic. Then job profiles involved in this data analysis process, and what are the analytical model requirements in order to build an optimized model, and the sources of data from where do you from where do you collect the data, and how to perform sampling, and the types of data elements like categorical and continuous data elements, and how visual data exploration and exploratory statistical analysis will help us in performing preliminary investigation of the data, and missing values and how to deal with missing values and how to deal with the missing values, and how to detect the outliers and remove them or treat them, and how to standardize the data, and finally categorization that we covered in today's class. Now let's head towards module 2 in the next lecture. See you in the next lecture.
Chi-square analysis.
Okay.
Do we consider like how we did in pivot, or how do
Yeah,
you
you can
categorize
do.
it?
After categorizing, after creating the categories using this pivot table, later you can also perform chi-squared analysis to perform in-depth analysis of knowing which option will be the best option for you. Normally, you need not calculate all these chi-square analysis. You need not calculate all these chi-square scores. The tool itself will do it for you. But the background details you need to know. That is why I have explained you how to perform this chi-square analysis, right?
No, for considering the categories, ma'am. Like,
Okay.
Can you show that PPT once again, ma'am? For
Yeah.
chi-square?
This last one, right?
Not the previous one, ma'am. Like chi-square
This
table.
one?
Yeah, this one.
Mm.
How did the option 1 and 2 you consider, ma'am? Like the groups.
See, option 1, we in the initial case, we have done 2 types of categorization, option 1 and option 2. But we do not know which is the best categorization, right?
Now, how do we consider the options? Like option 1, only these things have to come.
That is through some domain knowledge. We say if he is a financial expert, he will understand that customers can be categorized as owners of a house, renters of a house, or whether he can be taken under other category. Otherwise, if they are staying for free, okay, they may not spend any amount on paying the rent. So in that case, they may not be defaulters. They have some domain knowledge, right? Banking people or financial experts. If, based on the domain expertise, they come out with some options of categorization. Now, whether to see which categorization is the best categorization, they perform this chi-squared analysis. Where the chi-square value is higher, then we say that there is better dependence between the categories that we have, the classes that we have categorized. If there is a better dependence, then it will come out with a better classification. In that case, we can select that particular option of categorization as the best option. Got it? So to create this initial categorization, to get these initial options is dependent on domain knowledge and business expertise.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Any other doubts? Unmute yourself and you can ask the doubts. Students, you just go through the PPT after the class. You'll better understand about the calculations. Okay? Are you present?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Shall we end the meeting then?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for attending the class. See you in the next lecture.